Adam is back. Wearing a polo, dude. Wearing a polo.
You know, I've been traveling when I start breaking out like the polos and stuff, and I don't have any Emblem swag because everything needs to be washed, bro. The laundry is stacked. You know the way it is after a vacation, man. It's like
welcome back, bro. Looking good, baby. Looking refreshed,
man. Ready to get into it. What a crazy! I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the L1 stuff going on, man. Everybody's gonna have an L1 now.
Well, first, tell us, what did you do in your vacation? I mean,
it was really family time, you know, just seeing my nieces and nephews. You know, they're getting older. I was telling Chris before the show, they're getting older, starting to go off to college and stuff. And it's like, you know, you just realize you get to an age, you guys aren't there yet, but you get to an age where you realize like TikTok, man. And I mean, obviously we have a million things going on. There's no way I can't, I mean, wasn't fully off, but you know, you just realize there's only a couple of years left of these kids being kids. And so I tried to get some time in.
Damn good. Pop
well deserved, bro. Well deserved.
Yeah, congrats on that. It's cool. How do you feel coming back after, I guess, like 10 or 12 days kind of with the family? Do you feel like you missed the entire space?
No, I felt like I missed nothing, bro. I still live online, man. So you know, it's all a question of you know, this is going to be a massive month for us, I think, no doubt. And juggling it all is going to be it's going to be everything. And I think we're on top of it. It's going to be awesome, man. Really, this first group to migrate is going to be, I mean, it's just, I just feel it. It's going to be game on. The wars between the launch pads, I think, is like just warming up. You know, I saw some tweets from Alan and just like the pumps now rewarding people. But you see the what the rewards are. I mean, what I swear to God,
are you talking about the Stickman one?
No, it was literally like got our first reward, and it was like $60, bro. And I was like, man, it is game on, man, because this is not moving the needle for anybody. And I think, you know, yeah, this is gonna get. We have a product here that's gonna make the next 6 months really exciting to see who kind of. You know, who can actually reward people the best? Where are people going to see or have the opportunity, you know, to make the most money and you know, maybe feel supported by the community? I mean, there's talk that Pump's doing, you know, buying back certain tokens and stuff. I don't know how much of that's true, but that's actually the rumor. But all these guys want to win, right? And when they want to win and you get hyper competitive environments, you know, people win. People get better service, make more money. So I'm excited to be a part of that, man.
Yeah, we've been contacted by a lot of the smaller teams, smaller launch pads, smaller or new AMMs who want migrate fund integrations, and a lot of teams, I guess you'd say community members reaching out about asking if we can migrate to Pump, which was kind of interesting because it's all been, hey, let's leave Pump. Isn't it funny how the narratives change? All of a sudden, Pump starts putting money back into their ecosystem. Everyone's like, wait,
I mean,
how do we turn it around and go this way?
All you need, I mean, I heard talk about Believe app and Cluely, and Believe being somewhat aligned because those guys know each other. You know, all it would take would be something like, well, if you bring your project back to Believe, you get partial ownership of Cluely, or who knows what could happen, you know? But that's what makes it exciting, right? Is that these things obviously can go anyway. You know, we're very involved with Bonk, and those guys are awesome, but we know the way this works. Like nobody's going to give up tens or hundreds or even billions of dollars without a fight. And so, yeah, it's going to get really interesting, I think, over the next 6 months, see where this goes.
Yeah, with the migrate fund stuff, I was actually quite surprised the amount of interest of people wanting to migrate to launchpads. I thought it was going to be like, we're exiting launchpads only, and we're going to set up our own liquidity pools and manage our stuff. Turns out most people do not want that full responsibility, nor do they actually have the understanding of how to manage it. You know, there was like somebody in my comments yesterday was asking me about migrating to Bonk and to Radium, and they were like, well, how does the team ensure that there will be demand side liquidity if you're not doing a Bonk migration where there's, you know, 20% of the supply in the liquidity pool post bonding curve? He's like, well, if you migrate and there's not the 20% of the supply, and you have, you know, 4 or 5% of the supply there, and the liquidity is more thin, how do you ensure that the liquidity pool is managed properly? And it's like, well, you know, this kind of comes down to the creators. Mm-hmm. Like, we're a tool, and it actually turns out that most people want thinner liquidity pools. It seems to be the case. Like, maybe this is like the $1 billion idea that, hey, maybe 20% of the supply in the liquidity pool is not a good idea. maybe that's like what holds a lot of these coins back from being able to ascend past $1 billion and hold it, right? There's only one Pump token that has over $1 billion, and that is Fartcoin. Everything else is $200 million or lower. And maybe it's because, and we're going to find out in practice here, you know, over the next few months, if you put 20% in that bonding curve and the LP's locked to where you can't pull funds out, that liquidity ends up becoming so padded that the volatility ends up decreasing, and there's no ability to thin the liquidity pool to end up increasing price volatility. Maybe that's like been one of the big hindrances for these launchpads. And so maybe the migration way of being able to thin out your liquidity pool is maybe something that is more attractive, because people are going to be like, oh shit, number can go up now because there's less liquidity. Instead of having 20%, we have 5% or whatever number is. It's been good for Hustle so far. So we'll kind of see with some of these other teams that have yet to announce, some of the larger ones.
Yes, sir. And like, you know, we don't know exactly why everyone's going to want to migrate. We just know that they're going to want to migrate in the future. Like, if you look back since the very beginning of the industry, it was only Bitcoin, and then Ethereum sprung up, and then people are like, oh, I want to migrate some of these assets over to Ethereum. And then a couple of years later, Solana sprung up, and people are like, oh, I think that we should migrate some of these assets over to Solana. And so over the next 5 years, 10 years, 100 years, new chains and new kind of solutions are going to pop up, and there's going to continue to be more and more reasons to migrate. And as we get more of these bigger teams through the finish line, people see how simple the process is. Maybe they do start over at something like Bonk Fund, where it's more training wheels, and they can kind of get a taste of what some of the rewards are. And then they get 10, 20% of the rewards. And then they say, wow, this is pretty significant. I actually want the other 70%. I want the other 80% of the rewards. And then they migrate again to their own liquidity pool. So it's just like, it's not a one and done type of thing. Like a lot of people are saying, like, oh, how many teams are going to want to migrate? There's infinite reasons to migrate, and everyone's kind of reason for doing so is totally up to them. But it's always changing. It's ever changing. And so the target market for Migrate Fund is much bigger than I think we initially anticipated, and I think we're seeing that in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the definitely the narrative that this is like, oh, this is just people who want a rug. And I there will be rugs, completely guaranteed, right? But the reality is all, I mean, it's almost to a team. Everybody's just looking for, number go up technology, renewed interest. There are dozens of different reasons, but they're all legitimate. Like these, I mean, that's the thing that's kind of been overwhelming is all these teams, even with like tiny market caps, like actually want to continue their project. Like they actually want to build this thing again. Which is actually kind of cool to see.
Dude, there's teams that we've been reached out to teams that are $10,000 market cap, upwards of $250 million, I think was the largest one. And a lot of the smaller teams, I put this post out the other day. I was like, for every one team that wants to migrate that has $1 million in liquidity, there's 15 small teams that have less than 100,000 or around 100,000 that want to. And as Adam says, that's the teams that believe in themselves, that want to continue to keep fighting. Why would you not want to help these people? I mean, for us, right, obviously the most profitable path of revenue is for it to help the larger teams. But some of these smaller teams migrate, they could end up being that gigantic, winner. And that just adds kind of a little bit more credibility. Maybe here in the future, teams are going to have to reach out to us because they want to migrate to Stripe coin or to Stripe chain. Right. Or to USDC chain. Right?
That's kind of how it is, though. If you're off the beaten path, if you're not where all of the action is, if you're not on Bird Eye, if you're not on Solana, if you're not on, Photon, whatever it is, you're kind of forgotten about. So if you're on an AVAX chain or if you're on a Cardano chain and you have a really strong community, you're just not going to be able to get the notoriety and the recognition that you might deserve. So like that is worth thinking about a migration. And that's going to be the case for many years to come. There's always going to be a new shiny toy on the block that people are going to want to go to.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody right before this on a call about what's the next chain that kind of wins. And I kind of look at it as different programming languages. So you had, or I guess you could say blockchain types, right? Bitcoin is obviously the UTXO winner. And then you have all the ancillary ones like Dogecoin and such. You have Ethereum for EVM. Then you have all the EVM chains. You have Solana for SVM. There's really no other SVM chains. And then the next one seems to be Move VM, which is like Sui and Monad and Say and a handful of other ones. And I think it's a little bit still too early to tell who's going to win. Although Sui has got a gigantic lead right now. And maybe the thesis plays that we talk about is being in beta is bearish as fuck. Like I rarely ever see projects win that are just in beta or in this testing phase for so long, while all these other projects are out there literally in the wild, testing things out.
I think Solana still might be in beta, so that's like maybe the only counter. I think it actually is. I think the plan was to come out of beta when they got Fire Dancer live, but I haven't checked on it in a couple months, but they have been in beta for like years. So that's like the only.
Oh, is that true?
Well, let me clarify. Private beta is
okay. Yeah, private beta.
These people
Public
who are
beta
like,
is okay. Private beta, I don't think you have a product. It might not exist.
It's like the AI companies that are still in private. And like, we have 25,000 active users. I'm like, I could barely get 1,000 people to use my public AI product. Granted, you have 25,000 people behind this thing. Like that is crazy. I have seen a lot more stuff on the timeline about people starting to call out these platforms for these fake numbers. Yeah. And you know why these teams do these fake numbers is because they have VC backing. And so they have to basically tell these lies so that then they can survive to the next round.
That's literally
to raise. And in reality, they're just doing themselves a disservice, because if you have a bunch of early adopters on your platform, you want them to feel like they're literally here early, right? Like you want them to know, because they're going to be your early supporters. They're going to be the loudest ones. And then they also realize, hey, if I'm early here and this thing blows up, like, I'm going to retire my bloodline. And you want those people to support you. To say I have 25,000 active users when really it's like 100, like those people are never going to stay and support. They're like, fuck, I'm not early anymore. This is stupid.
It's so interesting you're saying. I mean, we've obviously chosen our path, and our path is not the normal path. I was listening to a pod yesterday. It was, a startup type pod. And this guy was saying, the hardest thing about being a startup founder was lying to everybody, lying to your VCs about how I'm serious. That's what his point was. He was like, it was so draining. The only thing that kept me going was good friends, but I was lying to my VCs because I'm trying to raise more money. I'm lying to my board because my numbers aren't real. I'm lying to my community because it's like I'm just, trying to make it all seem great. And it's literally all falling apart. And I think a lot, that is the traditional kind of VC model. It's like a lot of fakeness, and we've seen it on the social platforms, right? There's a reason they don't shut down bots, because they need the bots for fake numbers, right? And so I get that game. I think I like our game though. I like the transparent game. Yep. I think I think people are moving towards this idea of real. People have a deep need for, like, deep fucking need, and so I like being on the forefront.
Yeah, I think we're in the era of like everything is replicable and you don't really know what's real, right? There's so much inner information and counter information, and it's hard to find like a source of truth. And so to find like authenticity, I think is like extremely valuable. I think it's going to be more valuable going into the future. Like, I'm an extremely authentic person. Some people like me, some people don't like me. It's just like, I think a lot of us operate that way, where you're like held to your truths. And I think that our company really operates with high integrity. And, I like when I see a 4,000 follower account, or a 1,953 follower account, or a 7,000 follower account. I'm like, oh, this is like real. And it's like, startups are supposed to be scrappy, and they're not supposed to be perfect. That's what makes them a startup. They haven't reached like the shelling point. They haven't reached that next level where everything is going so smoothly. Like, we are a scrappy startup, and things do go wrong sometimes, and it's not always perfect. But the vision and the opportunity to come along with doing your research, finding a cool, innovative company that's able to build things and that has like honesty and integrity, and riding that wave with them the whole way, like, that is the startup experience. And so I think that's why our community really appreciates and supports us so much, is because like they see that vision and they're happy to be a part of it.
I mean, I forget who it was, but it was some guy kind of trolling on the timeline yesterday. And he obviously like hadn't even really used Hustle. He just put in like, it didn't work, and you realize it's so easy those people are so easy to spot on the timeline now, just people who they're not actually they don't want a open conversation. They actually just want to, just their own stuff. Yeah. It's just drama or whatever. And I think, to your point, Chris, it's just our community was immediately like, no.
Yeah.
Right?
I saw
and
that.
Now, and that's like, that's awesome. That's what.
Yeah, I've become, maybe we get into this later, but yeah, over the last like 2-3 months, become a lot hardened to
the criticisms,
the business dealings, the how to approach it, right? How to deal with fallouts and when things don't go right and wrong, and you can't please everybody. There's no way to, and just being able to identify what's authentic and what's not, I think, is really important. And a lot of times the criticism is kind of half-baked, right? They're looking at it from, maybe they want engagement, maybe they just want the founder's response, right? There's so many times, like, it's 2-3 times a day now, people send me posts. They're like, can you respond to this? Can you respond to this? Right. And a lot of times when I respond, most of the time, then it's generally positive feedback, right? So they just kind of want to be heard. But other times, right, you don't really know what the true intention is, and they're just flustered into new technology and such. And so being able to manage those expectations and just trying to understand stuff is really important.
And like, we know at this stage, our products aren't going to be perfect all the time. Like, they 100% will not be perfect all the time. That's why we're in the early stages and we're worth tens of millions of dollars and not like hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars. It's because things can still go wrong, but we're building them out, and they improve every single day. And one of my favorite kind of quotes, one of my favorite interactions, I've never heard this answer before, but they were like, what do you look for in a partner? What do you look for in kind of business partners? And how do you find like the most success? And they were like, I look for people that can deal with tragedy well, because there's always going to be tragedy. Like, things are always blowing up in the startup world and in personal lives and everything else. And so knowing that tragedy is going to strike and surrounding yourself with a team that is able to mitigate that and perform well throughout the chaos is like one of the most important things, actually. And I was surprised that I never heard that answer, but it was actually the best answer that I'd ever heard. So I totally agree.
Yeah. The last week or so, this last weekend was fucking true chaos. I was kind of, man, that was wild. Maybe we'll have to comment that later. But Patches, what's good, bro? Good to see you up here. Long time no talk.
Patches, what's good?
It's a good day. Yeah. I know you know about my project that I've been working on for a minute. Over in Hashgraph, and the intent is to kind of connect everything. I had to come up when you said like Bitcoin is the winner of UTXO, because I think it kind of like, it's hard to disagree, but at the same time, the biggest meme coin platform is on ICP using UTXO for Bitcoin. So it's like the question is Bitcoin the winner, or is every chain? Again, like that end result is actually a bunch of different networks working together to bring a great user experience. And in Bitcoin's case, it's using like build on Bitcoins on Ethereum, right? So it's like, yeah, Bitcoin is the biggest UTXO chain. It's definitely beating Cardano, but its utility going into other networks is the value, such as ICP. And so what we're actually launching today at Hashgraph Online is our first desktop app that is sort of for the agentic internet. And it allows you to do really, really easy things like add new MCP servers. And there's an index, you can look them up. This is V0, so you still have to pull down the repo. But the intent is that this application does sort of that intertwining between these networks. So you can add in different chains, you can add in different MCP servers, you can add in different plugins for your bot, and then you can run that locally, all in an easy user GUI interface. And then you can start having cross-chain actions in a very simple desktop application. And that was released this morning. So I'm pretty pumped about it.
Congrats, Patches. Yeah, I mean, you speak to the same language that we do, that everything's a Bitcoin L2 at the end of the day, right? Bitcoin is the UTXO winner, but the programmability layer is not going to be on Bitcoin, right? It's going to be some implementation. It could be EVM, it could be SVM, it could be these meta or these execution layers, right? Obviously, with using Hashgraph, it's kind of this hybrid combination of programmability and DAGs and such. And those kind of ideas are only going to continue to proliferate. And we're seeing this now across not just Bitcoin, but Dogecoin is starting to explore this as well, with like Dogecoin or Doge OS. And there was like other L2s and such. And so, Bitcoin is an export chain. We've held that idea here for years, and I know you have as well. And it's a lot of capital to capture. If you could be one of the chains that imports Bitcoin assets, that's literally potentially trillions of dollars if you can manage it right.
Yeah, I think it's not exactly, you are correct, but it's not exactly just about the bridging and the porting of assets. And I apologize, I'm going to drop off in like 3 minutes. I got a hard stop. But like even back in 2023, my team at Turtle Moon, we did the first on-chain DAO vote of Bitcoin, and we created a standard of how you could do votes. And we used a DAG with the signature of the private key of the Bitcoin wallets to prove that each of those people did vote that way. And then we rolled everything up and did one inscription of the final vote tally of the DAO vote that you had to hold a ordinal to do. So using a hash graph, we facilitated 1 to 2 second user experience. We ate all the costs because it was only 1/100th of a penny per record. We signed the transactions with Bitcoin and can prove that those signatures happened at that moment. And then we rolled everything up and it's all back on Bitcoin. And so it's bringing that utility and that user experience, utilizing other networks. And yeah, so we've been working towards this for 2 years. Hashgraph Online is a DAO of 10 different developer firms. We're working with MIT to create different standards of agentic computing, connection, consent, and authentication. And it's all just like this inner network of an agentic internet is coming together. And we fundamentally believe that there will be, each network will have its own vertical faction of utility. And we're looking to try to build the decentralized registries and aggregators above that, where you can have this unique identifier that gives authentication above trying to decide if a certification source is true. So I don't care if you believe in ENS, it is or isn't an authoritarian or authoritative certificate. What I care about is that an agent can talk to an agent and say, this is the people I trust to be my certification, and point to it. And so having this infrastructure of almost immediate agentic to agentic discovery, understanding, authentication, and execution, cross-network and cross-chain, I think that weaving is a hash graph, but then these fundamental layer ones that are being connected are the intranets of the 2000 analogy where these intranets exist, they have users, they have purpose, and then the internet is being developed with these fundamental parts of authenticity, consent, and discovery. And that I think needs to be a DAG to kind of coordinate in the fastest consensus mechanism possible and have trustlessness, while also utilizing all of these legacy chains that are where the value is. So that's where our focus is that infrastructure of decentralized agentic internet, with a focus also on, the current internet is absolutely horrible for human civilization, and we must protect data, sovereignty, and privacy.
Yeah, the agentic internet. Completely agree with you.
It's
on the
funny
same.
though, as I'm listening to Patches, I'm like, there are probably, I don't know, 3,000 people on Earth who would know what the hell he just said. It's just like, we get it, we understand what you're saying, but it's like just most people have no clue what's even happening. You know what I mean? Most people.
Number go up, baby. That's all you're looking for, right?
It's the best marketing. I did see earlier today when Stripe announced that they were having an L1 and then USDC did. Somebody commented or had posted and said that this idea of these stable coins and projects building L1s is kind of the antithesis to the L2 narrative, but they said that it completely obstructs Solana's vision. And then Toli came in and was like, well, in the early days of the internet, there was dozens of intranets, which I think is what Patches was talking about, is considering a blockchain as an intranet. And then they were all either became obsolete or they were all paired together through interoperability layers, which is like what Hashgraph is.
You got to make TLS, But with all of that nerd talk, sorry, I'm gonna drop out. But always enjoyed talking with you, and we gotta catch up, get Hustle registered to a decentralized registry.
Yes, sir. Cool. Let's do it, man. Yeah, there's so many cool and interesting things going on in the AI world, but Hustle is doing well. Banker is doing really well. I saw a bunch of volume going to Griffin yesterday. Apparently somebody had DM'd Tony, and he said that they were still heads down building on Griffin, whatever this new super one is. So speculation's coming in, whatever the super app version is.
What is their what's Griffin's market cap right now?
It's still at 50 million now.
Wow.
Just market makers are just putting in work.
Bro, it's incredible.
That's what happens when you get good ones.
It's strategy. Strategy is going strong, baby. So
I think my thesis is still he realized probably very smartly that the modular way of going about this is not the right way. Right, giving users 70 different agents to use is just way too confusing, even for myself. Never worked for a normal person.
I mean, we see what's going on even with, if you guys have used the new OpenAI model, you see it, you're only dealing with one agent, right? But you see, if you ask a simple question and you get a garbage answer, that's their shitty agent, right? They're cheap version agent. So if you say think deeper about that, then it goes down to another kind of agent. This is my monkey brain way of explaining it to myself, but the idea that it's just going to be an agent, he's going to do everything, that doesn't work at all. The idea is you have to have dozens or hundreds of agents, but they have to be integrated in a way that's seamless for the end user. It has to be that way. The idea that users are going to select agents, that if it's not already dead, it should be dead. That was never going to happen. That was never going to work.
Well, Shannon's kind of working on something similar to this, but instead of different agents, it's different tooling. So he's building or he's working on an auto tool selector of some sort, right? Because we kind of went the different routes. We have Agent Hustle, right, that runs on a model, and then we have 100 tools to choose from. But what we've come to find out now, a month into the toolbox experience, right, is that the users don't have the knowledge of what tools are, or they don't know what to use. But then on the other side of it, it's if you don't have these tools, then everyone thinks that the AI is terrible and he sucks because he can't do anything. But the more tools you have, the slower it gets. So he's building this auto tool selector, which is similar to what OpenAI is doing, where it's an auto agent chooser, right? It takes the context that you put in. It says, oh, this lightweight model or this heavy model is the correct use of this. So we're trying to do something similar with the tooling. Not an easy thing, man. But it's tough.
No, it's looking really hard. Look, it's hard. Period. Full stop. but you see the evolution, how quickly it's going. And everybody's struggling. Look, nobody's got it all figured out. Everybody's a million miles away from having it figured out. But that said, it's happening quick, and I have no doubt, zero doubt, in a year, 18 months, somewhere around there, it'll be pretty seamless. But the idea is to basically abstract away all of it, right? The bridging, the swapping, you're abstracting away all of it. But it just takes tremendous amount of building. I mean, to get that done is not like, anybody who thinks this is like easy peasy is crazy. And to think that there isn't moats being built now by actually building this out, like somebody's just going to be able to, OpenAI can come in and replicate this. No fucking way, man. This takes a tremendous amount of building.
And like the way that it's being built is important. Like, yeah, it's kind of slow now, but the strategy is to go kind of like a methodically wide way and offer a lot of tools, because you actually don't know what people are going to use. And then you go more of a narrow way once you see what, like, this bucket of tools covers 80% of the usage, and then you can axe the other 80% of the tools that because 20% is only being in use. So then that enhances the speed. It's like a catch-all for pretty much what everyone else is going to use. And so it's just like, these are the earliest days. So, you're offering a lot, and then you can kind of pinpoint what people are actually going to use, speed up the systems, and then everything else can kind of be separate and like, additional features that aren't going to be used as much, but they're not going to hit as many credits. They're not going to kind of slow down the system at all. And so just like the way it's being built and the way that we have to find out what our users actually want, it's a little bit of a slower process than just giving them this and assuming that they're going to run with it.
And this is something you can never do in a private beta session, right? This is something you got to do out in the wild. You just can't. You got to be able to take the criticisms of, hey, this shit sucks, or or if somebody new coming in and saying that the product's terrible and they'll never use it because there's so many options. And then, you kind of have to look beneath the criticisms to figure out what's the common denominator here. And that's how you automate the tooling. But over the last few weeks or a month, I could say that, it's become very apparent to me. I mean, we talked about this, but now I'm like almost very certain that this new model, right, of an AI terminal is just going to completely replace the wallet and bridging experience. Like,
yes, sir.
The fact that the Agent Hustle's moat is Emblem Vault, the Agent Hustle's moat is his memories, right? Those two things where we have the ability to integrate any chain, UTXO or not, and then users who are building rapport through the memory, right? Like, that's the reason why they stay. It's the reason why you stay on Twitter and not go to another platform, because you've spent, a decade building an audience for a few years or whatever it is. You don't want to have to start that over. That's the same thing with the ideas.
Yep.
And for the tooling itself, I mean, we had the partnership, or I guess you would say the services were being provided to a different team. Doesn't appear that they're going to be using it anymore, but we still have conversations on with other like teams, like literally other blockchain foundations who are kind of ancillary to the interoperability system that exists within EVM. And they look at this and they're like, holy shit, if I just direct all my users here and all my users don't have to go through the bridging experience, and they can just flip a button and go from Solana to X chain, and then from X chain to Y chain, from Y chain to Z chain in one button. They don't ever have to actually go through the whole bridging experience and such. Like, this is infinitely better experience. And then the users don't have to have any crypto knowledge. They can sit there and just talk to an LLM and be told, all the different details that they need. And so we've gotten like 3 or 4 different chains in the last ecosystems, like XYZ, outside of the Bitcoin ones that we've been talking with, who are like, yeah, I would love to have this in some capacity. So it just makes me realize that we're definitely building, and you do need to build vertical or horizontal, I should say, and get some of these, ancillary ecosystems that are quite large. For example, I'll use one example, right? Like Tron is a pretty good example here. They are not EVM, but they have a huge community. They're literally the number1 stablecoin community out there, right? And the bridging experience to Tron is terrible. It sucks. And so if Agent Hustle integrated Tron, you would literally just click one button and you would just go from Tron to Solana. and you would be there. You wouldn't have to go through the bridging experience or anything like that. And it's because we support all these different wallets. And that would be a big win, where none of these other AI projects could support it, because they all use Privy wallet, and Privy only supports EVM and Solana. And they don't have all this other tooling that's available, like what we've done with the AI wallet and with Agent Hustle. So big pickups there. And it makes you wonder, like, okay, if you had, I'm just going to choose chains, right? Like if you had XRP integrated into Hustle, if you had Tron ecosystem integrated in Hustle, if you had Cardano integrated, does that actually increase the value and volume to these ecosystems? Because now that experience has improved. And I think there's a handful of blockchains and teams that we're talking with that are starting to be like, wow, this does add TVL to our ecosystem, because now it's just a 10-second process and not like hours or maybe even days, because you have to figure out how to even do it.
Totally. I mean, it's I think it's, I mean, when we've had these conversations, I think it's actually the easiest sell. And I'll just use I don't know, when Charles Hoskins, everybody found his pig, it was named Nike. Somebody launched a meme coin. Lots of people on the timeline wanted to buy that meme coin. Lots. But nobody wanted to go figure out how to bridge this, to Cardano. They just didn't. And so it didn't happen. And like every chain and protocol wants that ability for the end user to just jump seamlessly. And I think just Hustle's perfectly positioned for this, man. It's going to be, man, I'm just wondering, we should probably take bets on how many chains we're going to have by the end of, in another year from now. I mean, my gut says like maybe 10.
Mm-hmm. And you look at it, how the industry kind of has evolved, and it was pocketed before which assets you could buy based on which assets were on the exchange that you used. If you used Coinbase, you had this list of assets that you could buy. If you used Kraken, you had this one. Maybe a couple of people had different, like 2 or 3 exchanges, but some of them were geo-blocked or whatever it was, so you couldn't access them all. And then now more things are on chain, and it's kind of pocketed by which wallets you have. Some people have Phantom, some people have Xverse, some people have whatever else, EVM, MetaMask. And then when you have something like Agent Hustle, who has an Emblem Vault wallet, which has every chain's wallet inside of it automatically, you can just start to see how like the mechanism would just be automated into all those different wallets. And you can just literally speak natural language to it and tell it, I want to move this asset to this asset. It's all done for you in the background. So slowly but surely, we're inching towards the agentic future, and we're getting pretty close, dude. We're pretty close.
Agent Hustle now, the platform has over $1.5 million in trading volume. It's quite large. Since V3 launched, I believe it's like close to $1 million. So you're doing like around $200,000, $250,000. It's actually, we're kind of like somewhat in a good situation here, a unique situation, but one of the better ones that you want to be in, where, we spent the last month building this subscription tool, right? And the reason why you do a subscription is a few reasons. You make it payable in Hustle, right? So you add the tokenomics to it. You can identify your power users, and you can offer these kind of premium features, but it also brings your costs down, right? Because once you put a paywall up, you're going to lose a percentage of those people, generally probably half or more. But over the last week, the revenue from the platform has superseded the expenditure of the AI costs, right? So now you're in a situation of, hey, do we want to basically put up an obstacle in front of all these new users who are coming in for free? Or do you like let it run and try to figure out how to implement this subscription model in a different way, right? That's more catered towards like super premium users.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting, because I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. Obviously, you still need probably a few weeks or a month to have some stability there to make like a final decision. Because as we know, in crypto, things are fluctuate a lot. And once you add more chains, then obviously more opportunities come and such. But it's just really taught me that in order to scale an AI terminal, it's not a user problem. It's a size issue. It's if users are feeling comfortable and they're trading in more size, then you will have a profitable platform, because the AI and inference costs are linear, right? It's like this one prompt who calls these 3 tools is always going to be the same price, whether you're trading with $5 or $5,000. but users are not going to trade with higher size if they don't feel comfortable with it. So we're starting now 4 months later, 4.5, maybe almost 5 months into it now. The size increase it's now starting to average out. Yesterday, the average trade size was 150. The day before that was 180. The day before that was 300. And it kind of dips around. We got up to like $800 one day. That was like when Hustle was at like 30 or $40 million, or when Hustle was at like 40 mil. But still averaging average trade size around like $150 is literally 10 times more than it was 5 months ago.
Man, I mean, it's funny to see, you can, and this is kind of the entrepreneur's journey. You think something might work. Like, we believe that once conditional trading was in place, people would actually trade on platform, but there was no guarantee that was going to happen. But it's great to see it happen. Right. And I think, look, it's only going to get better. And so it's almost, for me, we already know people are going to do it now. Now we just need to make the experience better. And, obviously try and put in rewards and stuff for people who are trading on platform and are spending money, create the reward mechanism and stuff. But that's when it gets into the fun stuff. Like, that's when we can get creative. Now that we know it works.
This is the fun stuff is next. I think so. I put this post out earlier because building the conditional system has been a real bitch. It's a real pain in the ass. There's, who would have thought that infinite inputs and infinite outputs would lead to literally dozens of issues? But I do think we are finally through a lot of the main complexities of it. There's obviously always going to be edge cases, but the last 2 or 3 days we've been doing some tests, and there's been no issues with early executions. There's been no issues with immediate orders being closed, or stop lots being missed, or take profits being missed. So I think if we could finally put a bow on that package, then I think we're finally able to start expanding. The last thing our dev is finishing right now is the P&L kind of tracker and the leaderboard, which we're on the last piece of that. And then after that, that's the fun stuff. Then it's all expansion after that, right?
Let's go. And like,
good.
These friction points, these are the life story of technology and startups. And you look at Solana, right? Oh, a couple of years ago, it had downtime. Oh, it'll never work because it has downtime once every 3 years. Well, you don't hear about downtime anymore because it's grown and it's progressed and it's become more battle tested. When Solana was going from like $8 to like $100 in like 2022, whatever it was, they're like, oh, but the TVL is so small. Like, that small TVL is your opportunity. That means you're early. You look at something like Agent Hustle, it's like, oh, like $1.5 million in trading volume. That's small. It's like, that's your opportunity. That means that you're literally early. You're at the beginning of it. Like, yes, it is small. That means that there's more opportunity left on the table. Because once it's at 10 million, 100 million, billion, the opportunity is no longer there. And it's not as, you don't have as many, such an opportunity for multiples as you do today. So we are proud to grow the TVL and the volume from 10,000 to 100,000 to 1 million to 10 million to 100 million. We're proud every step of the way, because when it's extremely difficult, we're building in this in hopes of increasing our trading platform fees and trading volume on the platform. And it's hard to build in that direction, and it's hard to get it right. And that's a success story. So these smaller numbers, although we're proud of them, that's your opportunity. That's being early. And it's not a dig at the company. It's not a dig at the platform. That is your opportunity to be early. And so, I think we're proud of that. And I think people should realize how technology works.
Totally. I can't remember who posted it yesterday, but talking about, basically laid out like 3 things that could be slept on, and AI is one of them. And I think there's no doubt, AI is still being slept on in crypto because of this, right? Because of every team, banker included, is still figuring out how to make this stuff work. It's really hard. But you see, as it kind of clicks in, even the simplest thing, what was it? Hustle was struggling with market cap the other day, bro.
Yeah, it still is.
It's still it, but every team is struggling with that. Every team has to figure it out. And these are the moats, but then you realize, oh geez, there's only there's 300 people using Hustle on a daily basis. That means it's early, bro. When it's 3 million using Hustle on a daily basis, that's when it's probably a little bit too late, right? To be early, as Chris points out. When you see it like that, you're like, oh, this might not be anything, or oh, this is struggling. Bro, if you can't see that this is going to be something, like, you are retarded, bro. This is something.
The market cap thing, just to explain, like when it comes to conditional trading. So this is more of a Solana specific thing, but I suspect this is across a lot of more immature ecosystems where it's like you have to build this conditional engine. It's not like EVM where like Banker and all these are using CowSwap for their like automated trading. Like this, we had to build custom. And because of that, you have to use different APIs. And it's like, so to track market cap, right? We in real-time market data, we have to use BirdEye, but in order to do the actual conditional trading itself, we use something called, I think it's called API Solana Tracker, but then you also have to use another thing for the WebSockets and such. And so you look at something, I use Bonk because Bonk's a pretty good example of this. When you say, sell, if you say, buy Bonk now and sell when it's over a $2.5 billion market cap, on CoinGecko, there's a circulating supply and there's a FDV, but on BirdEye, they just treat everything as FDV, right? So when you say sell above $2.5 billion market cap, right? According to CoinGecko, the market cap's 2.1 billion, but according to BirdEye, where we're tracking data, it's 2.5. So the order would trigger immediately, and then people are like, "Well, what the fuck? It's not working." And it's like, well, it's there's nuances to it, right? So, and it's like with market cap specifically, it's up to the team to submit the circulating supply and the tracking, and they only submit to certain areas, and so you find these nuances as you kind of get into it. And there's literally dozens of these, like across the board, not just market cap, but a lot of different complexities as well. But that means that this is the moat. If it's this difficult to build and no one else has built it, is because this shit is actually hard. And that's being early, and that's showing that a team has to do it. Like we could go to Base tomorrow and we could use CowSwap just as everyone has, and we'll have the same exact features that Banker has. Like this, because they're all using the one on EVM. But they cannot do the same thing coming to Solana because that shit does not exist. At least yet. There could be some team that ends up doing it and offering that tooling, or it could be us, right? Maybe we outsource our conditional engine and allow people to do it. That's what the APIs are for. So good time to be alive. Good time to build. The AI space is continuing to grow, although I haven't seen too many new ones. I have seen some recent LP yield optimizers. I think like Mamo was one of these that somebody kept sending me, as well as a few other ones. But I also hear that shit's kind of broken and difficult. So
Yeah.
You got to have a little vision. This industry was built on dreamers. It was built on visionaries. I mean, Bitcoin in 2015, Bitcoin in 2016, there was no writings on, there was no esoteric pieces of how this was going to, infiltrate traditional finance the way that it is. It was like you had to have the vision for it. Ethereum, oh, it's like a world computer. What the fuck is a world computer? I don't know, but I'm going to think about what it might be like. And there's a 2% chance that it might actually become whatever a world computer is. And it's like, that's the story of an investor, like being early, putting the puzzle together before everyone else. It's like, sometimes our community is like, give us everything. It's like, no, it's up to everyone else looking outward to put the pieces together and make of it what you think it could be. And then you tack on your risk parameters and you kind of put out a valuation that you might think it's worth or not. And that's the game that, you as like an investor or a community member will play. It's like, not everything is for the team to give you. And so, I don't know, I hope that someday we can get back to this, that visionary mindset where you're a venture investor, or you're looking for the next big thing, and that involves putting the pieces together that aren't yet there, that might not ever get there, but maybe they will, and that's the bet.
I mean, it's so funny, how bullish crypto is right now. It's literally all. I mean, they've already signaled it. All TradFi is coming onto crypto rails, but as we've already seen, they are going to be their own blockchains. They're going to be separated. They're going to be siloed. If you don't think an AI agent that can work across all those chains is bullish, bro, I don't know it's impossible for me to be more bullish. There's literally no way it could be more bullish than that, because how else is it all going to work? Are you going to have wallets on every chain still? Are you really trusting? You're really going to work on MetaMask for every chain. Like I've seen that experience. I am not interested. And I know most people aren't interested in that experience at fucking all. Yeah. Anyway, that's your bullish news today by Agent Hustle, man. I mean,
intelligence and interoperability. That's the next wave, right? You could not be in a better position than Emblem. It has the top NFT interoperability protocol, and it has one of the top AI agents that is interoperable, and then a migration tool. Right? Like that's all. Literally, all of that is inter and intra operability. Like literally, all of the whole entire stack is. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting as we continue to build. There's a lot of stuff up and coming. I mean, I guess I don't even know where to really kind of take this direction next for this. Like with the agent space is kind of, I think the winners have almost been chosen already at this point, outside of a few, right? Banker and Hustle. There's a handful of other ones that people like Hayanon, and all these VC ones that are back that I don't really hear from anymore. I think maybe because they're still in private beta, I guess. But Wayfinder still has potential from what I see. There are some people who use it and continue to go from there.
Mainly the founder.
What's your take on the Bitcoin ecosystem at this point in time? I see the Bitcoin eco continuing to cannibalizing itself.
Yeah.
People hate runes still. I don't know. I still like runes. I still think runes are dope. people, I don't know if it's like this, like, I don't know if it's this like self-inflicted pain because it makes them feel better that eventually you're trying to reverse psychology of the market, saying, hey, the shit sucks so much, eventually it goes up. But I think it's just a time thing. It's always been the thing with Bitcoin. Maybe just everyone just has just no patience because they look at what's happening on Solana and the explosive growth, and they're like, that needs to happen here, when in reality that was never the case.
Yeah, I think I was talking with Jacob yesterday, and he was of the mindset, oh well, runes isn't the winning token standard or whatever, and so look out for the next token standard to be a winner on whatever Arch or the fuck else, and I was like, man, that doesn't feel right to me. Like it just, it could happen that way. Like somebody has a magic token standard that solves all problems, but I just don't think that's going to happen. It feels like something on Bitcoin. Somebody has to build something that's good on Bitcoin. Not just a retread of a meme coin launchpad or a fucking, I don't know, staking protocol. Like it's got to be something good. Like somebody has to build something good on Bitcoin, and it could be on one of these L2s or whatever, or a meta protocol or whatever. But somebody's got to build something that actually moves the needle on Bitcoin. For like my thesis is that somebody will build that and it'll be on token standard X. Maybe it's runes, maybe it's whatever, and that becomes then the winning token standard because everybody's using that. Like I feel like that's the way it's going to go, rather than, oh, look at how great our token standard on Arch is, and it's like, am I going to ape more tokens because it's zero cost and now I can try and flip them and nobody's buying them? I just don't think that like we ran that playbook, man. It's so 2023. It's just like I just feel like somebody needs to build something really cool.
Build cool shit, man. We got a lot of live streamers in here. 1,000 people today. So I don't know if we got rated or what, but pretty solid. People like the hustle.
Yeah. I don't know. I like runes. I've always liked runes. A lot of this stuff to me, it's more social penetration than it is like technical implementation. And the thing is that even if another token standard wins, these tokens will just migrate to the winning token standard. Magic and Remedy, Dog, whatever it would be. If something is dramatically better, they can just migrate to the new token standard. But they already have strong inherent communities that have been building day in and day out. And I think in this industry, community wins above all else. Like you can't buy the community, you can't fake the community. And so to some extent, I think Runes is going to be the winner personally. But if it's not, these tokens that are already building every single day, it's not like there's any waste in building day in and day out. They would just migrate to the new token standard that has all the attention.
Yep.
And I think that just the Bitcoin story gets bigger and bigger and better and better. And then you look to those early days of Bitcoin and you look at something like Magic Internet Money or Dog or something like that. And you look at these implementations of token standards and kind of tell the history of Bitcoin within their tokens and their communities. Like how that only gets more powerful with time. It only gets more powerful the bigger that Bitcoin gets. And I don't know. I mean, I think I think AI and Bitcoin are the most transformational technologies of this generation. And I don't know how you fade the combination of those two. I don't know how you fade tokens being built on Bitcoin. I don't know how you fade tokens being integrated with AI. It just, I don't know. You know, we've been in this for a long time, and this is like these are the most obvious trades I've ever seen personally.
Not everybody gets it, man. Not everybody gets it.
So what some of the other trades, what's your thought of the biggest legacy KOL ever, Mr. Tom Lee, coming out and saying that he's going to swing another 20 billion into Ethereum? This guy is
goat, bro.
You said somebody was going to come in Michael Saylor ETH. He's doing it at like much larger scale.
That's my goat, bro. I mean, it was inevitable that it would happen. I'm happy that it's him. He made the switch at exactly the right time. Ethereum, like I said, it's like a token buyer's market. I don't see much innovation happening on Ethereum. I'm not in the weeds every single day, so don't shoot the messenger. But from what I can tell, I don't see a lot of experimentation happening on Ethereum. But I do see a lot of token buyers on Ethereum. It's almost more like a Bitcoin. It is almost like more like a store of value, I think, as a thesis, with like a little bit of a tech tilt on it than Bitcoin. So I think that those are kind of more store of value narratives. And then you see something like Solana. I don't think anyone sees Solana as a store of value. I think they see it as a tech platform. And so I think like that's like the difference. So Tom Lee, man, that man is going to etch his name in history, bro. He's gonna the gains you can get from Ethereum. I mean, people don't see it, but can Ethereum go to $50,000? Yeah, sure. Not now. I'm not saying like short term.
Make it happen today, please.
I'm not saying short term, but I mean, he has an asymmetric opportunity to become one of the greatest investors of all time. Do you take that bet? Fuck yeah, you take that fucking bet. Michael Saylor wrote the playbook with Bitcoin. He's using the same playbook with Ethereum that has a fraction of the market cap with just as much growth potential. Decentralization is there. The story can be crafted towards he can bend it towards his will. Yep. Like, dude, I would take that bet every single fucking time. That man.
So wait, are you a buyer right now of
I think Chris was, or Brody, he said that earlier in the year he was a buyer.
Yeah, bro.
Like New Year's.
I've been the Ethereum bull. I've said it a million times. I was like, it's funny that I have to be the Ethereum bull. I've said that.
So are
you buying Ethereum or are you buying his fund? What are you buying?
I'd buy Bitminer, but I mean Ethereum to 15,000 still. The prophecy will be foretold.
Yeah.
I'm still underwater on my S bet, so I'm still
but $4,000 Ethereum, it's not even at all-time high. But dream a little bit, people. Dream a little bit. Yeah.
In this situation, then you also get Vitalik in your corner, right? It's like when the price is down, you don't want a central leader, but once the price is up, you want Vitalik out there fucking showing.
I want Tom Lee, bro. I don't need Vitalik. I want Tom Lee.
Tom Lee might be better.
Right? Keep Vitalik. Get him a girlfriend. I don't know. Like,
I mean, that's the thing.
Do you listen to the Vitalik interview on Bankless?
Absolutely not. No.
What do you say? What do you say?
There wasn't much new stuff to it. It was more kind of recanting on the 10 years of Ethereum, where he said he thought that when he first came out with the idea, it was going to be like a 2-3 month thing, and then he would just go to the background, and then all these ancillary things took off, like DeFi and NFTs and DAOs and stuff. And then he realized like this was going to be a lifetime build. And he did kind of reiterate that he does have intention to scale the L1. He actually kind of admits that he was originally wrong on the L1 kind of idea. And then Bankless kind of presses him a little bit on, well, what happens to the L2s? And he kind of gave it off like they're going to have to figure it out.
They will have to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Vitalik was, generally technically right on the technicalities of things. I think he vastly underestimated the economic, and I guess you'd say the economic partnership between the L1 and the L2. And maybe he thought a little bit more in this like idea of solidarity, where the L2s would basically, be attribute more to the L1. It turns out the L2s were just like, we're just a business and we're just going to run it like a business and we're going to take every second of profit possible. And that was something that I don't think he weighed in. He thought that they would basically pay more to the L1s than like what the very minimum amount is.
I just saw him shitting on Zora yesterday. That was pretty funny. You know, did you see that when they were like, oh, I don't know, somehow Zora was like top of mind, and like he came in and he was like, I don't know. I thought I was going to be able to log in with my Ethereum wallet. You know, it's like, no, you got to sign in with your fucking email address into Zora. And that
Does he have anything positive to say though? When's the last time Vitalik said anything positive about anything?
That is my biggest gripe with him, is that he doesn't actually support things that people really want on Ethereum, right? And because they don't fit into his like societal,
and he has a weird societal view. Like
totally,
it's
very,
a little bit
very much a socialist
right,
sort of bend, very much.
And that's not like that's not the indust's ideals at base root. So the source of the industry is not based on those ideals, and so he continuously mends his views on the Ethereum users. We naturally don't want that. Sorry to cut you off, but it's always been a disconnect between his views and the industry's views. And he was wrong. He has been wrong.
Totally wrong. I mean, he was totally wrong on NFTs, like completely wrong on NFTs. And he was, well, the big one was ENS. Like he was dead wrong on the way he wanted to put like a harbinger tax on ENS, which is just a fucking terrible idea. I mean, ENS can barely survive on its own anyway. And he wanted to like totally take away all speculation on the thing. I mean, it was just, he was completely wrong about that.
He's generally anti-speculation is like the heart of it.
Yeah. And that's just not like, it's not the way stuff works. I mean, if being anti-speculation, if there was no speculation, Ethereum wouldn't exist today. So
100%.
Yeah.
And like,
I think this recent run up with ETH is definitely kind of showcases that price leads narrative. Like the whole thing, the whole industry came back to ETH once the price started running.
I tell you one thing to you know, I know Chris is bullish Tom Lee. When my brother, who's Wall Street guy but not super involved in crypto, when he heard that Tom Lee was, you know, bullish Ethereum, he was like, "Ooh, maybe I should hold on to my Ethereum bags a little longer."
He's the GOAT, bro. He's one of the ones.
Gives you the Wall Street perspective is, oh shit, Tom Lee's involved. I need to pay attention now.
But more of the why that he would have that reaction that he did. It's because Tom Lee went against the entire Wall Street elitist group and backed Bitcoin publicly from 3,000 to 20,000 to 50,000 when it was a non-consensus bet and extremely unpopular and almost like a career ruining move. If he were to be wrong, he was laughed at like publicly, like on CNBC, like weekly. Like they would bring him on kind of like as a joke. Like, you think Bitcoin's going to $100,000? They would like laugh at him like publicly. And so like he earned his stripes in war. Like that's like the kind of leader you want, a wartime leader that's been was forged in fire. He was forged in battle. Yeah. And so that's why when people hear like Tom Lee from Fundstrat is, you know, moving, he has this narrative, he has this new thesis. It's because he's earned his battle stripes, you know. And so I think that that's super important. Why people have that reaction to him. I
just love now that you got the crypto KOLs and you've got the traditional Wall Street KOLs just coming out in full shill fashion now. It's just like so
everyone's a shiller, you know, on a long enough timeline, we all die a shiller. I guess that's the way. That's
it is really true.
I was never a shiller. I'm a shiller. I'm a hustle shiller, you know. I'm an Emblem Vault shiller. I was never a shiller. I will die a shiller now. You know,
bros got to work for their bags, dude. Now it's just like even more apparent, right? It was always like kind of laughed at, like when it first came to my purview that these people on CNBC and Mad Money and stuff were just shillers. Is when Bill Ackman was literally crying at the bottom of the COVID bottom. You remember that? When he
it was a fake cry.
Fake crying, just basically pleading for the Fed to print money. And turns out like a year later, he just had like the biggest long ever on that trade. And I'm like, wow, it took me that long to realize that, wow, this is everyone just shilling bags.
Everyone just talks their book, man. That's all we are. We're just book talkers. Damn.
Get long and get loud.
Get long, get loud. Yeah, that is the truth. So, you know, maybe final question here for the show is like, now that you have the traditional, right, kind of fund managers coming out and entrepreneurs coming out shilling crypto, you've obviously got the on-chain economy and native crypto leaders shilling crypto. Does this just mean that crypto culture is just completely capturing the online market and this is the new culture now? Like everything is now You even see this on like Twitter now, where like things like Wendy's and McDonald's and stuff are doing literally like crypto marketing style, like with the meme marketing, the intern thing. That's like a crypto or crypto marketing scheme. Can we say that crypto culture is one at this point in time?
I would say, believe it or not, crypto is what, I don't know, 4 trillion in assets right now. That's not even a blip like in traditional finance or the real world. So, I still think it's maybe a decade or longer till like the full thesis is played out. And still, I mean, picking the winners is still very hard, and I'm a believer in ETH and Bitcoin, but that also tells me that there's opportunity there, because sometimes the things that are consensus don't work out. And I mean, it's hard to bet against Bitcoin. I'm not betting against Bitcoin, but there will be things that surprise us. I think there's no doubt about that. But man, what a great time to be in crypto. It's absolutely incredible. One other thing though, about that, like how a small group of people can change culture. And I think we've seen that, to Jake's point. But the ethos guys, like he went in and like really dug in. He thinks there are probably less than 30,000 people in all of crypto Twitter, and more like 10 to 15,000 active people in crypto Twitter, which has, for years has been my feeling that this is a very, very tiny group of people, very wealthy, but
with lots of influence.
With tons of influence, tons
So
of money.
We are exporting our influence. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't know if Elon revealed it or if it was more API scraping the data, but it was like 5 years ago when Elon bought Twitter or whatever it was. Even when Jack was running, it was like the most engaged accounts on Twitter were like crypto, and I think it was like adult entertainment. Where like
sports, I think, was the other one.
Like the two biggest segments by far, and crypto was like tiny. So we've always punched like multiples above our weight. But I mean, the financial engagement, anything showing financial products is worth, X amount more than any, like maybe retail goods or whatever. So we've always been like the most powerful category. We are exporting our influence, which is cool to see. And I mean, is it tiny? I mean, dude, yeah. I mean, there's no one using this stuff, but we are growing.
We have 2 million daily active users, Chris. So I don't know what you guys are doing over there with
some of these AI crypto platforms have more users than all of the history of crypto combined. So that's cool to see. I don't know how they did it, but that's cool to see. But I think that crypto culture does win at the end, and it is small today, but the hard I don't know if I should say this, but the hard battles are over. It seems that to get to where we are today, from where we were in the darkest corner of the online world to memeing a global reserve currency into existence, that seems like the most, hardest battle. So to get here, I think was the hardest battle. And where does it go next? I mean, it's not going to be an easy path, right? You can't just spin up. This isn't how the world works. You don't just get to spin up a Doge treasury company and become a billionaire. And so like this does end badly at some point, right? That's why I make the reference to the .com era, because you do get the .com crash. And like this is like, there will be, the more people that you get involved in crypto, the more people will eventually have a tragedy. We talked about tragedy earlier. Tragedy will strike again in a crazy way that maybe we don't, always expect. Yep. That's how it loves to strike, whether it's a black swan or that's something extremely obvious that we all saw, was coming, like treasury companies actually imploding. Like, right, there will be another tragedy that strikes, but the best companies, the most valuable companies, the most generational defining companies of the next generation are being built right now, right here in this industry. So tragedy ahead, but also, prosperity ahead too. And this is the time to get involved. So couldn't be more excited about where we are as a company and where we are as just in industry in general.
Yeah. Thinking about being in the industry for 9 years, there was only 2 moments ever where I was like, wow, this might actually be over. The longest one, the most painful one, was definitely the 2018-19 bear market. That was like, there was no question. I never actually doubted that it was going to end, but you start considering if this thing will ever be useful. I think the most fearful moment I ever had was the COVID crash, where that shit literally went negative. Bitcoin literally negative 50% in one day. And I literally staring at the chart, watching this shit just go down and down. I was like, wow, this might actually all be over. I think those days are long gone behind us. Although tragedy will strike in some way for sure. The thing though is like with these treasury companies, they have a formal process of unwinding, so you're gonna see it literally in real time.
Slow roll, 100%.
the slow death, right?
Kind of, but like this leverage, it finds all these weird, unpredictable ways of creeping in, like the FTX leverage, where he just leveraged the entire customer's book. I don't know how that'll happen again, but maybe it will. Like, do I think that we'll see like $60,000 Bitcoin again? I don't. I think probably like 70. Probably, yeah. I don't know. But I mean, it's hard to get lower than that. That's like a good price. But
yeah.
Do I think like never below 100K ever again? Like, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not there. So that means big tragedy, right? That's like a pretty big tragedy ahead.
Bro, you never know. I mean, I don't know if you guys are tracking this Monero thing that's happening right now with the kind of 51% attack on Monero. Basically, a big mining pool.
How do they know?
What the mining pool is doing is they issued a token, and so they have this token that they're giving as reward if you use their pool, and so they've been able to generate a large group of people mining on Monero, and basically are now in control of the blockchain. And it's a little gray, but they've done a bunch of reorgs of blocks and stuff so far, and it's just interesting. And not to say that this is going to happen anytime soon on Bitcoin, but it's possible. These kind of black swan events or things like this can happen. You just never know. You never know what can happen. So
yeah, like a smaller example of that is like Migrate Fund. We took a business model that was assumed to have won and to be locked, all this liquidity locked in these platforms, and we unlocked it and we're moving into other platforms. That's kind of like we're mixing up the incentives, and we're giving incentives to people to perform actions that they didn't before have. And that Monero thing is interesting. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I would I don't know. We're going into, I said it before, the era of supervillains, where the incentives are billions of dollars or hundreds of millions and maybe even trillions of dollars in some cases. Right. And so this is like where superhero movies come to reality.
This is like, I mean, the Monero thing's really interesting and cool, and I'm sad for kind of the Monero community who has like this battle to fight. But when you think about Bitcoin and state actors, like this is the type of thing that a state actor could do, right? Deep pockets, unlimited pockets. Just say the Chinese government decides to harness their Bitmain or Antpool or whatever connections to say, hey, we're going to put $1 trillion to basically try and attack Bitcoin mining to take over the chain, right? Not to say it's going to happen, but it could happen, right? And I think it's always good to keep your head aware of what's happening, like especially with this, because this does apply to Bitcoin or could in the future. So, you just got to pay attention.
The coolest part is that we can watch.
Yeah.
The whole world can watch. Everyone can watch the nodes come online. Everyone can watch the battle in real time. Yeah. And so, China's firing on the east. Well, we're firing back on the west. I don't know. It's going to get crazy. And I think everyone should be prepared for that. Like I said, I think the hardest part was getting here, but that doesn't mean that the road to winning is easy by any means. It's just different. So how we got here isn't how we're going to get to the next level. And, the adversaries and the enemies that we're making along the way, I mean, they get bigger and bigger, right? The final boss. Who's the final boss? I don't know, but we'll have to face him, whoever that is, at some point. So the most interesting time to be alive ever.
Yep. We're gonna have to put export Bitcoin mining export controls on Saudi Arabia, just like we're doing with China for AI at some point. Because I think that is the biggest pool of capital of anybody expendable. They could probably take over the network if they wanted to. Maybe, yeah, we can power it with oil, but for another day, as Bratoshi says, 2027 news, Bitcoin plummets 80% to 325K. It's all over. It's all over. Right. Millionaires getting wiped out. Whole coiners rejoice. Until then, everyone enjoy your Tuesday. We'll be back here Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Stay safe out there. Thrive on and continue the hustle.
Later, guys.
Take care.